Hi everyone, in today's video we're going to be taking a look at social class within an inspector course. So we're going to be having a look at one of these really key important themes in the play, some key quotations and how to respond to an exam style question. Now if you haven't done so already, please can you like and subscribe, it really does help us out when you do so. Look at the exam question and attempt the challenges that follow. So the question we're going to be working through in today's video is, how does Priestley explore the importance of social class in an inspector course? You can write about some ideas about social class in the play and how Priestley presents the importance of social class. So first thing I want you to think about when approaching a question like this, if you think about the theme broadly, just think how important is the theme in the play as a whole. For the super challenge, can you recall any key quotations linked to the key theme? And then the final one, the mega challenge, can you think of any contextual information that could help us to respond to the actual question? Now if you're not too sure about any of these, don't worry about it. We're going to go through all of these elements to make sure we can go through the question and plan it together in the next part of the video. So by the end of the video, you'll be able to recall key details about the theme, understand some of the key quotations that relate to this, and then you'll be able to apply your understanding to write your own response to the exam question. Look at the quotation and work out the missing words and phrases. So it says then, if you don't blank 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 on these people, then they'll ask for the blank. So try and figure out what is missing from the keywords or the key phrases. If you can stretch and challenge yourself as well, try and consider what part of the play is this from, and also if you can, which character is speaking in this quotation. Number 2. I became the most blank person in her blank. So again, try and think what part of the play is this from, and also if you can, which character has said these famous words. Number 3. Perhaps I ought to blank blank that he's an old blank of mine. Next we have, we are blank of one blank. We are blank for each other. So again, same as before, try and think what part of the play is this from and who has actually said the quotation as well. But these girls aren't blank labour, they're blank. Next we have, a girl of blank blank would never refuse blank. One Eva Smith has gone, but there are blank of Eva Smiths all blank with our lives. If men will not learn that lesson, then they will be taught it in blank and blank and blank. I'd blank mother to blank our account with them if Eva isn't blank. Last feedback. Check your answers against the 4 quotations. So for number 1 then, if you don't come down hard on these people, they'll be asking for the world. And that is Mr. Burling that says that. Number 2, I became the most important person in her life, so that one will be Gerald. Number 3, perhaps I ought to warn you, he's an old friend of mine. Again, that will be Mr. Burling when he's subtly threatening the inspector. Number 4, we are members of one body, we are responsible for each other. So that would be the inspector, obviously the voice of reason in terms of the actual way that Priestley's using him within the play. And number 5, but these girls aren't cheap labour, they're people. This is a really good quotation, especially when you think about the question we're trying to answer. This is Sheila that's saying this, and it shows that she's able to actually understand what the older generation doesn't understand and get over the idea of the social divide as well. Number 6. As if a girl of that sort would ever refuse money. So this is coming from Mrs. Burling, where she's looking down on Eva Smith. Number 7. One Eva Smith has gone, but there are millions of Eva Smiths all intertwined with our lives. If men will not learn that lesson, then they'll be taught it in fire and blood and anguish. So this is from the inspector, and it comes right towards the end of the play. And our final one, number 8. I'd persuade mother to close our account with them if Eva isn't fired. So this is Sheila talking about Eva once she has the kind of interaction with her within the shop. Look at the closed passage and identify the correct words or phrases to go into the spaces. So we've got our closed passage here at the top, and then we've got all our possible words, quite a few to go through here. So if you want to pause the video at any point and go through at your own time, please feel free to do so. So just get all of the possible words up first, and you can see there are quite a few. So you will need to spend your time going through this, think about all of the different things that you understand of the play as a whole as well. So it says then, the play reflects many of the blank of lower class people within blank during the time. Many believe that the lower class were naturally blank and blank. In addition, the perception of the lower class was that they were blank, lazy, and lacked any form of blank. There was a clear blank between rich and poor, as the poor often had to blank for the blank and received very little blank in return for their services. It was very hard to get out of a blank life, as blank blank was entirely blank. There was no way of a poor person getting a blank blank or blank out of their class. We do, however, see that the upper class have social mobility through the marriage of blank 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 blank, and also between blank and blank. Social class can be seen as very important in society at the time, as it provided a blank of what you could or could not blank in your lifetime. So I do apologise if that sounded a little bit strange as I read through it, but just know that these are going to be really integral points to know about the context surrounding the play. So please do pause the video here and go through it at your own time. We're now going to jump ahead and go through the answers in the next part. Class feedback. Check your answers against the ones below. So here we have our completed closed passage, and the thing to think about as well is, can you link any of the quotations that we just looked at to the contextual information below? So it says then, the play reflects many of the stereotypes of lower class people within Britain during the time. Many believed that the lower class were naturally sinful and dirty. In addition, the perception of the lower class was that they were idle, which also means lazy, and lacked any form of intelligence. There was a clear divide between rich and poor, as the poor often had to work for the rich and received very little money in return to their services. It was very hard to get out of an impoverished life, as social mobility was extremely restricted. There was no way of a poor person getting a better job or marrying out of their class. We do, however, see that the upper class have social mobility through the marriage of Mr. and Mrs. Burling, and also between Gerald and Sheila. Social class can be seen as a very important theme in society, as the time provided a roadmap of what you could or could not achieve in your lifetime. So if you want to pause the video here and go through it at your own time, please feel free to do so. We're now going to move on and start thinking a bit more about the question that we looked at the start of the video. So now we're going to look back at the exam question. I want you to think about the challenges on the right hand side. So the question again is, how does Priestley explore the importance of social class in Inspector Calls? And we can write about some ideas about social class in the play, how Priestley presents the importance of social class. So now that we've looked at the context surrounding the play, now that we've looked at a few of the key quotations, how confident do you feel about the exam question? Next, I want you to think about which characters would be best to speak about and try and justify your answer. Now with that, it's really important to think about really which characters you think really apply to this theme the most and which ones the least, because that's what you want to start with first. And then the mega challenge, look at the response on the next slide and attempt the challenges that follow. Look at the student example and attempt the challenges that follow. So the student has wrote them. Priestley explores the importance of social class through the older characters in the play. If you don't come down hard on these people, they'll be asking for the world. Here Mr. Burling is voicing the stereotypical view of the upper class at the time, and how they look down on people of a lower class. So what I'd like you to do then is think about what the student has wrote and think, can you identify 2 things the learner has done that works well in their writing? Next, if you can, try and identify 2 things they could do to improve, and then you can use this passage as a starting point for your own work to respond to the exam question that we've just looked through. If you want to pause the video here and go through it in a bit more detail, please feel free to do that. We're now going to jump ahead and look at the feedback given by the teacher. So here's our student example on the left hand side, and this is the kind of feedback that's been given by the teacher. So these are a few of the things that work well in the response. So they've used a judicious quotation. Now if you're not too sure what we mean by this, a judicious quotation, it's just very simply a quotation that works appropriately in relation to the question or the theme. They've embedded the quotation, so rather than saying this can be seen in the quotation, they're writing at a higher level, which would be to embed the quotation without having to have that extra sentence there and also wasting a bit of time. They've linked the context surrounding the play as a whole. Again, it's important to link to the context if you feel it's appropriate. You don't have to do it for every single paragraph, but making sure you show an awareness of the context will be important in the exam. Things to improve. So what they've missed out on really is kind of the key thing you'd be doing for any kind of language question. If you think about English language paper 1 or paper 2, they need to zoom in on a keyword or a language device to develop the response in more detail, link back to the focus of the exam question, and show an awareness of the play as a whole. So how is this shown through the other characters to focus on the next paragraph? So yes, you're talking about Mr. Berlin, that's absolutely fantastic. But what we want to do is demonstrate to the examiner that you've got a good understanding of the play as a whole and the other characters as well. So be sure not just to talk about the one character if you get a question like this in the exam. Now if you'd like to see an example of an improved response, this is an improved response that one of my learners has attempted from this first one. So they've said, Priestly explores the importance of social class through the older characters in the play. If you don't come down hard on these people, they'll be asking for the world. Here Mr. Burling is voicing the stereotypical view of the upper class at the time and how they look down on people of a lower class. In addition, Priestly has used a hyperbole in the line asking for the world. Mr. Burling is exaggerating, as you can't have the world. Mr. Burling views the lower class as selfish and spoilt, which shows the importance of social class in the play. Now this is by no means a perfect response, but you can see they're trying to think about the feedback and they're trying to develop the response, and that's a really important thing to do. Always keep practicing, always keep trying to develop and improve in your response. Now in terms of our next lesson, we're going to be going over the following things. So we're going to be recalling another key theme that affects the play. You're going to understand some of the key quotations surrounding that theme, and then you're going to apply that understanding to write an exam response. Now if you need any additional support or help, then new videos will be added every single week. Alternatively, leave us a comment below, like and subscribe, and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. Alternatively, you can check out our partner channel, Book on Teaching, for more lessons and guidance on all things English. Thanks ever so much for listening guys, and all the best for your work and revision in the future. Bye bye.